Hi, my name's David Atherton and I won the Great British Bake Off in 2019. I've also written a cookbook called My First Cookbook and it's full of recipes that are really healthy and tasty and you could give them a try. Now, it's Shakespeare week, so today I'm going to be doing a recipe that's something that maybe William Shakespeare himself will have eaten. They're kind of like a biscuit, but we'll come back to that. Up on the screen now is going to come the ingredients list, and while you're looking at that, I'm going to wash my hands and get ready. So we're going to start off with the dry ingredients for this. So we've got our plain flour, so that goes in. And then we're going to put half a teaspoon of baking powder in as well. And next, we're going to look at the flavours. So when William Shakespeare was around, spices were quite a new thing. And at first, spices came from tropical lands. So they were made from seed pods or bark from certain types of trees. And people used to bring them from long distances, which took a long time, so they were very expensive. But they started to become a little bit cheaper, so people like William Shakespeare would have been able to eat them. It wasn't just for the kings and queens. There's lots of different types of spices. For this recipe, I'm going to use some cinnamon. This one's nicely ground down into a powder. So I'm going to do a spoon of that. And then I'm going to use two spices you might not have heard of before. One are caraway seeds. Now for these, you can leave them in whole, or you can bash them a bit in a pestle and mortar. This would have been the traditional way to do it. So I'm going to put a spoon of those in and bash those up. Just a little bit. And the other one I'm going to put in is nutmeg. Now nutmeg at one point was a very expensive spice. So not everyone would have been allowed to use nutmeg for their jumbles. Nutmeg looks like this. It's like a little seed pod. And for this one, you need to grate it in. And if you've ever wondered on your grater why you've got one side that's quite spiky, that's just for this. So you take your nutmeg and grate it in. You see little bits of powder coming out? You just want about half a teaspoon of that. Now you can try all kinds of spices. You can ask the adult who's helping you what kind of spices they like. Honestly, there's so many different types. You can even just use mixed spice, which is just ground powders of lots of different spices together. Now we're also going to use lemon, and we just want to get the yellow bit of the lemon. So we use the small grater for this one. Using all parts of the grater. If you don't want to use lemon like this, you can buy lemon oil. And if you just put some drops of lemon oil in, then you get the same flavour that you get from the zest of the lemon. Now, like I say, we're not trying to grate right through the lemon here. We're just trying to get the zest, which is just the yellow part of the skin. And it smells delicious already. Okay, that's enough of that. So we've got all our dry ingredients in there. We're just going to toss them about a little bit, just to mix them through. And the next thing we're going to add is butter. Now again, this would have been quite expensive. So this recipe in William Shakespeare Day would have been quite a treat. So we've got our 40 grams of butter, and we're going to put that in. And the next stage is we're going to rub this butter with our fingertips until it comes to breadcrumbs. It takes a while, so get rubbing away. Okay, this is breadcrumb stage now, which just means it's still quite powdery, but you can't see any big lumps of butter. Now we're going to add our sugar, so that goes in. And we'll just toss this together, just like this, so it's nicely mixed. So this is all of our dry ingredients. Next, we want something wet, so this can become a dough. So we're going to use eggs. They definitely had chickens in William Shakespeare's time. So we're going to take 2 eggs. We're going to put them into a little bowl. You might need help cracking eggs, or you might be an expert by now if you do a lot of baking. It can be quite tricky. I don't get it right every time. There we go. And we're just going to quickly, just with a fork, just whisk these so you break the yolks up and it all becomes one colour. You don't need to be too careful with it though, it's okay. And we're going to mix this in with these dry ingredients until they become a dough. Now, different eggs are slightly different sizes, so you might need to add a little bit of milk, but just take your time mixing this first. And we'll see. You can use your hands if you want for this. I like to start off with a spatula and then use my hands if I need to. Here we go. I'm going to go with my hands now. It's already smelling delicious. Because of those spices and the lemon, you can already smell them. So yeah, get in with your hands. I'm sure you can keep on hearing my cat keeps on coming in through the cat flap. Here we go, this is coming nicely to a dough. Like I say, if it's still a little bit dry, you can add a splash of milk. This is basically perfect for me. Now we're going to let this dough chill in the fridge. We're just going to cover it and let it chill in the fridge for 30 minutes. And that's just so that the moisture in here can really be absorbed by the flour and the spices. There we go. It doesn't matter if it looks a little bit dry at this point, because it's going to come together once it's been in the fridge. I'm just going to rub this off my hands. And then pull it together for one last time. Oh, now when you're having a go at these, you'll see these smells are delicious. There we go. So we're just going to leave that in the bowl. Put it in the fridge for 30 minutes. So here's our dough chilled from the fridge. The first thing you've got to remember now is to preheat your oven to 160 degrees fan assisted, or if you don't have a fan in your oven, 180 degrees. And now let's get going. So we're going to do the shaping part. So we're going to take about a golf ball size, which will be about that. I'm going to put a little bit of a dusting of flour, and we're going to roll this into a sausage. I don't know why these are called jumbles, but my dog, when I was a kid, was called Jumble. So there's different ways of rolling out into a sausage. The easiest way is to use your fingers and just gently take your time, keep on rolling. If you take your time, it does take a bit of practice. I've done this a lot. You'll end up with a really nice long sausage. Now this is to make these cakes. Like I said, in William Shakespeare's time, these would have been quite fancy biscuits. So we're going to make them fancier by doing some shapes. So once you've rolled out your sausage like this, you're going to put them onto a baking tray. Now I've got a baking tray and I've lined it with baking paper so it doesn't stick. But some people have to ask your parent or whoever you're doing this with. Some people just like to grease the baking tray. It depends on your baking tray. So you can do whatever shape you would like. I'm going to make mine up. I'll show you mine afterwards. Because what's quite fun is to do one shape first, and then I'm going to roll another piece and put that on top. The theme for this year's Shakespeare Week is well-being, and I think baking is really good for your well-being. Apart from anything else, you can have great fun baking with someone, and it's really nice to make something for someone else. I will not be eating all these myself, don't worry, I'll be sharing them with my cat and my partner Nick. Another way of doing the sausage is to do it in your hands like this. Now this one can be more difficult, but could be more fun. Just start off. I find my sausages are a little bit go a bit funny shaped when I do it like this. I'm going to finish off on here now. I've chickened out of that. Seemed too difficult. Okay, if you're not very good at doing the sausages, you can always break off bits into balls and do lots of little balls. You can use some cutters. You can roll it out and do it with cutters and put them on top of each other. Okay, so I'm doing what I think is kind of like a Tudor shape. They look lots of fancy patterns. This is what mine looks like. Just like that. Now, to finish these off, before they go into the oven, you want to just brush them with a little bit of milk. You can actually use your fingers. If you haven't got one of these brushes, you can use a brush, or you can just dip your finger in, and that works just as well, because not everyone has a pastry brush. But these are quite a useful bit of kitchen equipment if you do want one. And then just while that's still a little bit wet, then we're just going to sprinkle on a little bit of caster sugar as well. And this just gives them a lovely crispy edge. Nice. So we're going to continue doing all of these until your dough is finished. You might need 1 or 2 or even 3 baking trays for this. And then we're going to bake them at 160 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. Now it does depend on your oven. Some ovens are slightly hotter than others, so you want them to be nice and crispy and brown. Here's my first batch, all twirly shapes, and these are now ready to go into the oven. These are out of the oven and cooled. Look at these! They are so nice, they smell delicious. I would advise having one of these with a nice glass of milk.